Welcome back to CS 170 fall session. I'm here to kick off week 3 of the class. I'm just going to run through a couple of quick administrative stuff and quick intro here, and then we'll cut this video and then we'll break out the rest of the chapters into smaller clips as we've done for the last couple of weeks. So let me start off with a couple of things. One, I think people were asking me about how do I handle the extra credits. So as you know, for the last couple of weeks, I've been asking you to submit questions to me, and I'm just keeping track of all the people who send me emails. Again, I'm not really checking them for correct answers, just checking to see from a process standpoint, are you having some idea or understanding of what we're doing. For example, the numeric conversions. Um, I'm not going to go into Canvas and add a point for extra credit for every single week. I think that's a lot of work to do considering we have about 200 students. So I'm not going to do that every week. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to accumulate all of it and then just give you the extra credit at the end of the semester as part of the final grade. And just so you can see here, I get all these emails here. So I am collecting and saving all of your emails here. Um, and it's quite easy for me to go over here to filter, and then I'll do sort, and I'll sort from. And you can see here, pretty quickly I can sort and group by people and see how much interactions I've had with them over this semester. Okay, so this is how I'm going to collect all of your information. So I do suggest that you send me your info through your Rutgers account. There's been a couple people who have sent me stuff outside of Rutgers, so it gets a little bit difficult. I have to look at it kind of manually to map it to your student ID and then into the Canvas class. If you use your Rutgers ID, it's a lot easier for me to map it to the students that are registered for the class. So please try to use your Rutgers email when you send me email. Okay, let me just fix this back to what it was before. Okay, and let's go back here to files. So let's take a look at what we have for this week. So under the schedule for students, let me zoom this so you might see it better on your screen. You can see here, we're on this week here, number 3. We have HTML, networks, internet, search engines. We're covering chapters 4, 3, and 5. The recitation, you're looking at basic HTML. And then the assignment will be basic HTML. We have the post date, we have the due date, and then we have the accept until date, which is your late date, and your quiz. You can see here the topic of the quiz is number conversions. Again, we're not really attending these quizzes to be difficult, so don't worry too much about it or stress out too much about it. It should be no different really than the exercises that you've been doing for my extra credit. Again, this is something you just have to put in the time, you do it, and it's easy points for your grade. Okay? So let's come back out here. Let's go over to modules. Okay. And then under modules, we're here on week 3. Okay. So you can see your textbook up here on the lectures. I'm going to break these down into a couple lectures for each one. These are learning objectives, and then a couple extra resources you can go to. Your vocabulary, text. Again, these are questions that you'll be doing for your own self-study. If there's answers in here that you don't quite understand, just let us know. We can talk it through more to explain those concepts to you. Okay, so that's what you can look at. As I said in the past, please pay attention to your announcements. I also made a comment, although I'm not tracking you this way, on the recitations, the TAs are tracking everyone, so please make sure that you are putting in, in a lot of cases, they're asking you to update a Google Sheet or something for your attendance. So make sure you are doing that. I hate to see everyone lose some extra points by not attending. Even though we're asynchronous, attending the lecture, essentially watching their lecture. So please try and do that. Those should be easy points for you. Okay, and just as a reminder, let me go back here to files. I've been putting stuff under Lao resources. So in case you miss out on some of my announcements, you can go here to Lao resources. I'm posting up all the PowerPoints that I'm going through in class. Last week I had the binary conversion sheet, which I updated a little bit to include the base 8 conversion. And then we also have this class video. So as I record more videos, I'm going to keep them all logged in here. Okay, so in case you don't see it when you go to Media Gallery here, you can see it when you go to My File. Okay, so there's a couple places to see things. But you can see here, all these videos are just mine. I don't think any of the other professors are posting into this place. Maybe they're posting it to YouTube or something. So you should be able to go into here and see mine, and I've ordered it like this. So you can do sorting, you can do the detail here. Oops, got an error here. And do all of this one by one. You can go through all of these videos. I've tried to keep it as short as I can, so you can just like watch one, go grab a coffee or something, and then come back later. Okay, so let's step into the quick intro here. So the first topic we will kick off and cover is HTML. Okay, and specifically they're talking about HTML5, which is a later version. And you see all of these little definitions here. So these are things that you want to try to understand. It's almost like a vocabulary thing. So try to go through all of these and understand what these different concepts mean. If you don't understand these, make sure you let us know. Okay. Let me go through this before I step into anything else. Okay, so what is HTML? Okay, HTML is what they call hypertext markup language, and it's basically a formatting thing. In the past, historically, when it first came out, it was basically along those lines. It's actually evolved a little bit more than that in modern times with HTML5. But basic HTML, you're basically just telling the browser what things are in the browser, how to format it, stuff like that. So you have something like a header, you have some paragraphs, you have like links to other web pages, you have images, and so on and so forth. And it basically tells you how to lay out the web page. Okay. And CSS, cascading style sheets, actually adds on to that. So visually, it makes things a little bit more slicker, right? A little bit more fancy. So you have more choices, more options. It makes it a little bit easier to basically apply consistent styles or graphics, look and feel across like a whole bunch of different web pages. And you can see it goes into all kinds of backgrounds, animations, 3D effects. Okay, and there's all kinds of stuff like that. And you say, well, okay, why am I learning this? I think I'll just step aside here. There's like a lot of different things we could be teaching from a technology perspective, right? If you're looking at what we can do here to apply to business or just whatever you might be doing as a non-computer science major, right? And the nice thing about technology, especially in more recent times, is how accessible technology is. There's so many things that historically you needed a full-time computer science developer to be able to crank these things out, right? To come up with a web page, someone that was pretty geeky, right? Pretty much into the tech to come up with the stuff for you. But now there's like, almost anybody can come up with applications, come up with a web page, and do all kinds of stuff over, the electronic mediums. Could be social media, whatever. It's much more accessible now. And one of those things that kind of facilitates that is HTML, and more specific HTML5. Okay, so you think about things, it's not really just about websites. If you go out into the corporate world right now, something as simple as your emails, your newsletters, documents, your online presence. Um, you know, back in the old days, either one was very basic. It was just like, pretty much some text. Maybe you're lucky you choose some fonts, you do some bolding or whatever, italics, like very basic stuff. But now, if you look at any sort of like marketing, you go to a web page, you get emails from like a pretty professional company internally, corporate communications. It's very packaged, right? Same thing like, you might even look at some PowerPoints or whatever, like everything to a certain degree is much more slicker, much more fancy these days. And part of it is looking at understanding how HTML is. There's many things right now that could automatically build things for you, and I'll show you that in a second. Build a web page for you or whatever. But if you don't understand some of the underlying concepts, you can never like customize it or tweak it a little bit to meet your needs, right? You're always going to be stuck with whatever editor is provided to you, or using someone else to do these things for you. And all throughout your careers after college, you'll be having opportunities to do things, whether it's your resume, whether you're doing some sort of communications with a team, or you're running a business. You want to be able to have the ability to have something more sophisticated. So HTML5, which is what we're talking about, is essentially the latest of the HTML. And it runs across, multiple platforms and browsers, which is pretty much the intent of a lot of stuff that's on the internet right now, is to not really care about a specific implementation, a specific browser, right? That's not really 100% true these days. There's been a couple of things as things have gotten more sophisticated. Some things don't really work that well across all of the browsers, let's say. But the idea in general is to try to have something that is portable across platforms, across browsers. You get better things to facilitate page ranking for your search engines, and we'll go over that a little bit in one of the future lectures. Of course, big thing is mobile, so more capabilities in terms of representing on mobile. Obviously video is a big thing. With mobile, obviously you're thinking about things like geolocation, and of course UX, right? Back in the old days, simple HTML versus what you're getting with HTML5 is a whole world of difference. And that comes through on the UX side of things. And ultimately, you're looking at the latest iterations of HTML to eventually do away with things like Flash and cookies. These are things that we'll talk about later also. I just made a little comment here about HTML5editor.net, and I'll kind of post it in my resources also. There's many different editors. Some people would say Notepad++, whatever. I kind of suggest using maybe this one because some of you might be using Chromebook, maybe you're on a PC, maybe you're on a Mac, MacBook or whatever. So having something that is really working off of a browser seems to be something that is very basic, something in common that everyone can use. And I'll show that to you in a second. Okay, so on the PowerPoint, I'm gonna pause here for the next clip, and let me just show you a couple of other things, and then we can go into some of the other stuff a little bit later in other lectures. Okay, so let me come back to here. All right, so first thing is first. So this is HTML5editor.net. And I just took some very simple stuff here, pasted it here. There's like all kinds of editors that can do some fancy things for you. This is kind of sort of basic, but I think it should be good enough for what we're going to be trying to do. So I recommend you guys try to stick with this. There's something else like VS Code, which I'll show you in a second. So don't worry too much about these. I'll explain these a little bit later on. But you can see here, here's my HTML, and then you can see on the right-hand side, what it represents here, right? You can click on it. You can see at the bottom what the tags are here. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand. No downloading of software, no figuring out whether you're on a Mac or a PC or Chromebook or whatever, right? So I hope this is something that all of you can access and use fairly easily, right? And the nice thing about these type of things is that you can change stuff on the left-hand side and it translates over to the right-hand side. Likewise, you can do something on the right-hand side and it should translate to the left-hand side. So let's make this bold. And you can see it changes on this side too, okay? So it's something that we'll get more into. So I just want to show this to you really quickly. Now, the other thing that I know some of the TAs like to use because they use this for other classes too. You guys are welcome to explore this, is this Visual Studio Code, right? It's fairly easy to install. And it has more features, right? It's more sophisticated. It covers more languages, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's kind of more of like a sophisticated tool. Do you really need it for this class? Probably not. But I put it out there. You can go in here, you can do a download and try it out on your own. If you like that better, that's fine. But if you ask me, I kind of think for you guys, this is probably the best thing to use. It's easy. You don't have to install anything. And what you need to get done for HTML, you can do it here. Okay. I want to just show you some other things just so people might think a little bit more about what is quote unquote practical application of something like HTML. Okay. All right. Now, to be honest, for a lot of you, you might not be getting into these fancy type of resumes, but it shows where you can go with things like this, right? So obviously, if you go into something more of the artistic fields, this is a chance to show off. You know, you can have obviously links to your portfolio and all kinds of stuff like that. You know, some people can get pretty fancy with these type of things, which is way above what you used to be able to do with either a standard paper resume or even just something formatted into like LinkedIn or something like that, right? So you can get into like you know, all kinds of like videos and animations and you know, things like what you see here. So I don't know where a lot of you may end up going in the future. You may never end up doing a resume like this, right? But the other thing is when you do HTML, you have a lot of metadata. So you can tag things, right? Now you have things like Google or whatever that is applying various types of artificial intelligence to look through it, look for certain keywords and whatnot. This is where, well, one, you can use those keywords in there, or you can use things like metadata that's in there to help attract the right type of people to look at what you're trying to emphasize, right? And we'll talk about metadata in a future lecture also. The other thing I want to show you is something like this, right? Wix is one of any number of website builders, right? And I'm just going to go in here really quickly, just pick one of these guys. And just to kind of show you, so to actually build a web page, you don't need to know much. You don't really need to know HTML. But if you want to do certain things in terms of like customizing it, maybe making it a little bit more special or complex, maybe you want to increase your page ranking, so your search engine optimization, all that kind of stuff, then you do want to understand how these things work. Okay. But you know, these website builders, I admit, it can probably get like 90% of the people up to where they want to be fairly quickly, right? It's just that if you want to get into certain things where you want to, um, you know, just add that extra visibility, help you stand out from the other websites. This is where understanding the intricacies of HTML, CSS, and whatnot could be helpful. Right? It may not be for everyone. Some people may just be maybe you know, okay with the basic package. Okay, my computer is running very slow today for some reason. Not sure what's going on with this guy here. All right, well, it finally came up. Um, but anyway, uh, so this is something like I was just putting something together for like for football as a sample thing because I happen to be working with my local school on some things. Um, I just put this together as a quick demo. So I literally put this together like in 5-10 minutes, right? So this is something that anyone can do with no experience at all, right? But um, you can see here I can switch my desktop mode, I can switch to a mobile mode. Um, I can play around with the different pages. Um, so this is how it look on a mobile. Uh, you have all kinds of different things here. I can edit the different pages. Let's maybe just switch to this, let's say, right? So you can type in whatever you want. You can see it's nicely formatted, all kinds of stuff, right? And there's all kinds of templates I can choose from and whatnot, right? But again, um, you can look at all these different things. There's all kinds of stuff to play around with. So they help you a lot in terms of getting the visual feel for this. But if you want to do things for, let's say, the most common thing would be search engine optimization. Um, you really have to understand a little bit to try to optimize it. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the crowd with everybody else who's putting together their own web pages. Just as an example, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just kind of want to give everyone some context on why this out of many different topics we can talk about from a technology perspective for business, why we're talking about things like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. These are the type of things that kind of hit on all kinds of different things, whether you're creating your own web page, um, you're doing like some marketing with email, any number of things that could be useful. So this is sort of the why of you covering this particular topic. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. More clips to come soon. Okay, talk to you soon.